Father of Tribes here with a tribal call for all. Gonna read to you a Chandra symbol for the full moon on May 10th at 20 degrees Scorpio, which is known as a serpent wrapped around an immense egg. They're saying this might give a hint as to what might unfold under this full moon energy. Here we go. Bearing deeply an entirely different future for yourself and everybody, condemned to hold this off, preserve it, keep it warmed through, not break into it until the signal is given. This is a punishing ordeal, for you know inside a different kind of reality and bear it directly within, but still you must live as if without it. This eventuates in a barren world, an outwardly determined existence in which things must be endured just about forever. You're testing yourself, making sure that you are worthy to bear your great treasure across the abyss. Do you have the forces to be steady, implacable, sound and reliable, and not turn negative and become resentful, martyr? Do you know how to do the right thing, even when you do not quite feel it inside? Deep at the core of your being, incredible things are completely and utterly alive, and they will come through when you have fully overcome the old karmas and shown yourself to be strong, clear, and true, even in a divided world that is past fixated, and at the end of its cycle, hanging on a bit too long. There you have it. Catch you on the inside of your reading. Greetings, Fire Tribes. How you doing? Jakob here, doing a full moon reading for this full moon in Scorpio on the 10th. Just thought I'd do a little bonus for you guys. And this is for you if your sun, moon, and or rising signs are in one of the fire tribes. Calling this a tribal call, so that's for Leo, Sag, and Aries. All right, I've already shuffled and dealt, as you can see, just to save on some time. Like I said, this is a bonus reading just for an additional lens, because this is going to be a kick-ass moon. I'm hearing so much great stuff about it, and like how sexy it's going to be for a lot of people. In some cases, because it's just smoldering hot energy, it's Scorpio. So, and it's the full moon, and it's kind of like a bear at all time for people. But in addition to that, if it's not like to deal with like, that kind of sexy, they're saying it's just like really kind of awesome, like own yourself and like your own prowess sort of sexy for a lot of people because of what's been illuminated and everything that's been churned through some really heavy, crazy oppositions, massively highly polarizing eclipse season that was just followed by all of us being basically lambasted with retrogrades all at the same time. It's been really interesting, and I was hearing, well, I've got a lot of messages here for you guys, first of all, I will say. So, trying to figure out where to start. I kept hearing about the farm for somebody. Maybe there's something to deal with farms for somebody. They're talking to me a little bit about karmic past, but I was hearing about buying the farm, and they said somebody like bought the farm, and so, condolences if you've lost somebody. But they were saying for somebody it's going to be a lot about freedom, and the song that I actually got from Archangel Gabriel for y'all right now is a song called Freedom that was by George Michael. You might want to look it up, and they just kept playing to me, I just hope you understand. Sometimes the clothes do not make the man. And they were talking to me about people that just finally know what they want to be. I was just getting this like image of just people just like finally like coming to the emotional conclusion of like, I know what I want to be. And it just being like this time where it's just like you got this fire to do it. And what was really cool was, this was one of my pop outs here, was the Prince of Cups. And what I thought was really cool was when it popped up and I looked at the other side, they'd shown me the Princess of Cups, and they were both over the Ace of Wands. And so I was seeing somebody like literally ascending their energy. In some cases, I was seeing couples coming together, and they were just like giving me very why am I having a hard time saying this? They were stressing the importance of me telling you that for some of you, this is a time to just make sure that you're not dwelling on any fears, because things might come up that are just kind of suppressing your mind. And they were saying some of it has to deal with, just people that might have planted certain ideas in your head from a long time that have just kind of kept you feeling a little bit less well than you could about your own truths. And I was seeing some of you just, here it is. They've been talking to me a lot about birds for all the tribes. So I don't know what else you have in your constitution, but I kept hearing about the birds. And you show a lot of birds in this, my thoughts deck here. It's the Crowley deck. But, there's this bird up here on this person's head. And then there's this, like, massive bird right here, right? But what I was hearing about was, like, the ascending of energies through emotional times. And this was kind of cool because this card is actually symbolic of Scorpio in this deck, this Prince of Cups. And if you look at what's in his cup right here, there's this little snake. It's coiling up. And it's like this Kundalini awakening that's happening. And it was cool because what was right before was the energy before the princess. So it's like this kind of coming together of really interesting emotional awareness, understanding. And I had to pull the Ace of Swords too, because that was what was underneath both of them. And that's really weird. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. My cards are being really talkative right now. This thing's going to be really sexual for a lot of people. The debauchery card showed up underneath that, and then I was looking at lust was what they were showing me, but they were also saying something about indolence. And so I'm just hearing a lot about, how we are demonstrating this kind of energy, because they say that there's a lot that's being stirred up in this. And I'm hearing that it's important to pick a path. They were telling me very clearly that some people are just going in like too many different directions right now, and that's going to be like elevated in your mind a lot right now. And they literally showed it to me like two bolts of lightning like crashing in the sky like into each other. And in some cases I was hearing about abuse coming to light and people taking a very firm posture about it, and it being like a very empowering time to take a stance in the world about injustices, and that some people are doing that right now. But we got this Two of Wands showing up. It says Dominion, and it's literally like water and fire crashing into each other, and it's very Martian energy. You see right there, there's Mars there. I think this is Mars and Aries, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's Aries right there too. So, there's a lot of fire energy here, like right in the center. And it's like, and then there's the Scorpio energy. So it was kind of cool because, we're reading fire tribes here. And, then we had that Scorpio energy with the Prince of Cups. But
they're saying that for some people, I'm hearing the words coming up from behind. They had me like writing that right there. And I was hearing about people feeling threatened in some way about their art. Like whatever it is that you would consider your art, whatever it is that you're doing, and it feeling like it was under siege in some way. And for some people, it's just because they finally realize what their purpose is and they just want to go for it. In other cases, I was hearing about borderline paranoia, but in some cases, they're saying you really need to like pay attention. And authority figures was showing up as a potential karmic tie associated with what's going on under the lens of this full moon. But they're saying for some people there might be legal implications, in some cases because of the past, the karmic past. And I was hearing something about scattered energy and burning bridges, and they were telling me, this might look familiar to some people. Using the deck of the Tarot of Sexual Magic, I was hearing about people just like ignoring nightmares, and in some cases, like being clear about what their nightmare situations were. In some cases, they're talking about how power is being demonstrated. This looks almost abusive in some cases for me. This relationship here, somebody looks very intimidated or intimidating. In other cases, we're hearing just about people coming into a very strong sense of prowess at this time and having a massive opportunity about how they're like turning this energy, this Two of Wands, which is really passionate energy here. And, I'm hearing about passion plays here with some people, and hearing about power couples in some cases, authority figures. And so it's really interesting the way that the energy is showing itself. But they were talking to me about things coming up from behind and people just being cautious about how their art is being perceived. And I was just hearing, just make sure that you're not like dwelling on your fears right now, because they were saying for some people, they're kind of afraid to put it out there. And I kept hearing somebody say, don't steal my baby. And so like I wrote that one down there, don't steal my baby. But I was hearing it in the sense of, just it being something about people just feeling need to almost be very protective over what it is that they've been developing, because they're kind of afraid of how it's going to be received. And so, we're just hearing that, that it's so natural just to feel like that, especially under such sensitive lens right now with the moon being where it's going to be here in Scorpio. It really just conjures up things like deep fears. And they're just saying right now, just make sure you're not scattering your energy too much, because that's the worst thing you can do, I guess, because it's just giving you less substance than what you need to be able to be as creative and directed with this kind of amazing energy that this, Two of Wands wants to give you, because dominion is power. And I'm just seeing somebody really coming into their prowess right now. And so they're kind of saying it's like learning how to temper it and ground it. So I keep seeing, this Pentacles is almost like a suggestion to just make sure you're like eating really hearty. I'm seeing somebody eating a really good meal for the full moon and just setting their intention about how they're going to be building whatever it is that they're bringing forward. Because they're saying for some people, it's about coming from like sort of like an underdog place. I'm sort of almost seeing it like this person here that was afraid before showing up, to be the authority in their own world and like really taking a posture. And so they're saying there's a whole lot of really awesome energy here. And I kept hearing something about burning bridges. They were saying something about burning bridges and somebody buying the farm. And I was hearing about somebody just feeling very free about it. And that, now's a really big time where we might be hearing deep confessions. And I just wanted to throw this out because this card made an appearance earlier. And they were saying something about deep confessions before, and I think it came up in the air tribes, but it was more about, somebody lurking around. In this case, I'm hearing about love confessions coming forward, and this was the card that had shown itself with it. And so we were hearing about people just kind of like needing to not be too afraid, because this is sort of a nightmare card a little bit here, this Nine of Swords, to be honest about something. And I was hearing about karmic relationships, and this looks really passionate though. This is a Three of Wands here. And so, they were just saying make sure that you're just not dwelling too much on your fears, and that you're giving yourself what you need right now to feel balanced. Because I'm just seeing people, like, if I look at the three of these together, and I mean, I have to say too, in some cases I was hearing about a domestic abuse case going very well for somebody who was, being physically abused and, kind of suffering quietly. They were saying somebody might have seen, and I was hearing about news coming forward that was going to be helpful. But in other cases, I was hearing just that if this is you coming into your power, you might not know it, because they're saying some of you are like kind of dwelling on some fears, and some of the reason why is because you've really put yourself out there about something that you're doing. And I was just hearing about people's creative talents and feeling afraid about intellectual property loss. They were talking to me about some of it, but some of it I was hearing is just going off in too many different directions and knowing who to work with. And so there's a lot of like partnership stuff that's showing up here for me. And I was just seeing two people here, and like, this is a 2 card here, and both of these that were like the pop-out messages were all 2s here. And so we're hearing about, I'm hearing about some power struggles that might have led to that before, and why people have been very guarded and maybe not feeling like they are in so much of their power. But the really strong emphasis here is just to make sure that you're giving yourself what you need. I'm hearing a lot about rest and not burning the candle from both ends, because they're saying this is a time where all of your creative energy should just be very focused, and that you should know very well what your posture is and what kind of authority you are putting yourself subject to. Because in some cases it might be taking from some of your efficacy, and they're saying that would be a real shame, because right now it's like, I'm hearing it's just like a really powerful crossroads in some of y'all's lives. And so they're saying if you finally know what you want to be, it's like, go for it. And don't be afraid of somebody coming up from behind, or like, judging your work, because they're saying some of you all are actually your own worst critic right now, because you're kind of hanging on to some negative shit that was said to you in the past. And that, maybe that's what burning bridges is about. It's just like cutting some of that stuff off and just realizing that maybe that crown belongs on your head there, Fire Tribe. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to wish you a very happy full moon. Hit me up if I can do a personal private reading for you. Take care. God bless. In case you get soon, we're back for another one. Bye for now.